committee meeting of the Farmville Board of Commissioners, Governing Board. Thank you for being here. Tonight is an interesting night. Tonight is our last meeting with David in the capacity of the town manager. There'll be no fireworks.
We can get my name back, okay?
We're gonna get our money tied up, but I'm sure there'll be some more of that as the night goes on. With that being said, if you have a cell phone, could you put it on what's it called, mute or whatever? And those things go off, it makes me think it's time to get up and go home. So we'll pass on that. I'm gonna ask Paul Ellis to come and give us our invitation, and then Commissioner Smith will lead us into pledge. Stand if you wish.
Good afternoon, Mayor Commissioners. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before your wonderful throne of grace, giving thanks for all the blessings you have given each of us. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the gift of life. Most of all, we thank you for your Son, through whom we may have eternal life in your presence. Father, we pray for our country, our state, and our town. Bless our mayor and commissioners with wisdom as they make decisions tonight that may affect all of us. Father, we ask you to keep your loving arm protection around all of us and help us to do your service. It is in your Son's precious name that we humbly pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for being here tonight. The business of the town will be conducted. There'll be two opportunities for folks in the gallery to speak. One will be in the citizen's presentation, and the other one is designed, if you have a question at the end of the meeting about anything you hear here tonight, about anything you hear. With that being said, Amy, did I have any citizen presentation? No citizen presentation, so we'll move down to the town manager's comment. Mr. Tyson?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. We had a nice weather for Garden Festival, very successful. Pretty good turnout, as best I can tell, and thanks to the town staff and volunteers who made the event a success. You may, hopefully you all participated in the retail electric customer survey that went out that we were working with Electric Cities on. That was closed on April 15th, and it was to receive feedback on a variety of issues, building, customer service, technology, all sorts of areas. The survey asked about. We had 73 electric customers respond, which is a good response. Doesn't sound like a lot, but given the number of customers we have, that's pretty good size. The survey firm is currently analyzing the data. Should have a detailed report to the town this summer, and we also will be compared to Pittsburgh, Duke Energy, and other providers in the area. Lastly, we just have we got one event coming out, a 5K race at Farm 5K, which Parks and Rec is putting on that Saturday, May 17th. The race starts at 8 a.m. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? This could be the last time you get asked. Anybody? Seeing none, we'll move down to the financial report. Board, that is in your pamphlet. It is in your booklet. Anybody have any questions of Amy about the financial report? Anybody? Seeing none, we'll move down to changes, additions, and deletions. Is there a motion that we accept the agenda as presented or any changes? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Commissioner Smith, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We will accept the agenda and move forward. There in your packet, there's a proclamation declaring Home Fire Sprinkler Week. I have signed that, so that is an official document at this point. That brings us down to the public hearing, proposed naming of the library drive. David, you want this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, as you all know, there's a street adjacent to the new fire department site called Library Drive. Nobody really has any idea why it was ever called that we've talked to. So there was a suggestion that it be renamed, and so the Public Facilities Naming Committee received a suggestion that the street be renamed. We also received a petition of, well, the threshold was 55% of the adjacent properties have to approve or request it. We actually had 75%. We didn't even approach the fourth project because we already exceeded the threshold. The committee met and recommended that the property be renamed to R.E. Davenport Lane. Mr. Ed Davenport was one of the adjacent property owners and had a little art, I guess it's art studio, building at the end of the road. And so that is the recommendation of the public facilities name.
This is a public hearing. You've heard the presenter, Town Manager Hoskins. A public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak to this matter? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone? Seeing none, I close this public hearing for questions, comments, and a motion. Board.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the Public Facilities Naming Committee and renaming Library Street to R.E. Davenport Lane.
Board, you've heard the motion by Commissioner Evans. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. I guess at this point, what we'll do, David, is commission Wes's crew to make us a sign and have an official dedication. Is that how that'll go?
We'll have to go ahead and submit that to the county for their approval because they do the street name. But yes, we'll get a sign up as soon as we get that approved. They've been alerted and approved the name, but they didn't want to go through the formal process until acted.
So there we go. That brings us down to items for consent. You have in your packet approval of the minutes and the appointment of Justin Oates as the interim town manager effective 1 June. Any questions, anything you'd like to take off, or any questions concerning the items of consent, or a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the items for consent.
Commissioner Smith has made a motion that we approve the items for consent. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We will accept that. That brings us down to items of discussion. Now,
I'm sorry, Mayor, just got a message. Fire chief came in late. I don't know, after the proclamation was mentioned, I'm not sure if the mayor just noted that, I didn't know if you needed one of the particular presentation. Okay, we'll give you a copy. I've got the sign here. I'm sorry.
we're good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That brings us down to this items for discussion. Now, I need to explain this because this is just stuff to talk about. People are going to come up and tell us why this is important, and that's where we are. And if we got a question, we can answer it, but there's no vote here, right?
That's correct. This
Okay.
is just the list of the outside agencies were groups who requested funding through our process. It always occurs this time of year. They have an opportunity to speak directly at the main meeting if they so choose. And so this is in here. This is just a list of who has submitted their request, and no votes tonight on this.
We will notify them of the time of the budget meeting later on, that's on the agenda. Anyone here that would like to speak for the Arts Council? Arts Council? Seeing none. Community Garden? Seeing none. Outreach Kitchen? Seeing none. Rescue and EMS? Seeing none. Farmville Seniors Council? Farmville Senior Council? Seeing none. Human trafficking, I see one. Come on, lady.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'll apologize for my voice first off, but it's a lot better than it has been, so we're getting there. Good evening, I'm Pam Strickland. I'm the founder and CEO of North Carolina Stop Human Trafficking. As I think most of you know, that nonprofit is homegrown. It started right here in Farmville. And can you believe it's been 15 years? It started in 2010, so we're celebrating our 15th anniversary this year. And over the years, I've received so many kind remarks about the organization and the work that we do. Every January, either myself or another team member or volunteer comes here, and you all have enthusiastically proclaimed January to be Human Trafficking Awareness Month here in Farmville. You all have expressed gratitude and support for the work that we do, and we are grateful for that. But tonight I'm here to ask for something more. I'm here to ask for partnership. Over the years, we've conducted a number of educational events here in Farmville. We've spoken at and helped organize an event at a school library for parents and the public to learn more about human trafficking. We've spoken at the Farmville Library at a coffee and human trafficking event. We've spoken at several churches and at the Boys and Girls Club, and I am sure of many that I don't remember because it's been 15 years, so I don't remember them all. But what I think that Farmville could benefit from is more targeted training about human trafficking for professionals and for young people especially. We'd like to propose training a number of professional groups right here in Farmville, beginning with our law enforcement, our Farmville Police Department, our fire department, our EMS and rescue, the staff at all 4 of our schools, the healthcare professionals that live and work here in Farmville. Our business community needs to be educated about it to be sure that they aren't unintentionally complicit in something that could be considered exploitation. And we'd like to train the volunteers and staff of our youth-serving organizations like the Boys and Girls Club or Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, those kinds of things where they're interacting directly with our young people. Of course, we'd also be glad to educate any civic groups or church groups that would like to learn more about human trafficking. We have online safety education available for parents and youth. I am sure that, aside from the stuff that we hear every day, there was a week back in February that I'm sure y'all will remember with me when there were 2 15-year-olds in completely separate cases here in North Carolina involved that were that had Amber Alerts for them, and both of them had been lured out of their homes by adult men who had targeted them on the line. And thankfully, both of those girls were recovered. It's a miracle. In light of that, we have been using cases like that to let parents know, look, you need to learn how to protect your kids online, and you need to learn how to teach them to protect themselves online, and that's something we can help with. We'd also like to provide posters with the National Human Trafficking Hotline that can be displayed in our schools, in our businesses, and in our government buildings. We are asking for $10,000 for this partnership. That will allow North Carolina Stop Human Trafficking to provide the staff time to make human trafficking training here in Farmville a priority, and to provide the posters, materials, that kind of thing that are also needed. Our mission is creating communities that are actively working to abolish human trafficking. And we would like for Farmville to be one of those communities. Thank you.
Real quick, then, anybody got a question? You'll be at our whole meeting, I'm sure, budget meeting. Again, anybody have a question now in your whole budget? Everybody want to open the budget meeting? Anybody? I can't see so far. Everybody good? Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone from the Council on Aging here?
I don't use for plans, so we're going to do this real quick. And I just have, I'd like to say something quick for the senior council on the community.
Okay, stop.
Okay.
Anybody here with the Council on Aging? Okay.
Yeah, so, We appreciate the allotments that have been made in the past. There have been membership changes, officer changes, people moving and things like that. So I guess there's a little confusion as to who should come represent the different organizations. But I know we appreciate the input, and we do need whatever we requested for each of these organizations to make sure that in the community gardens, so that we can build facilities, additional facilities, and for the senior council, so that we can have senior activities, so that we can have the senior activities that we need to have the seniors to be able to be mobile. So we have the allotment for senior council, for senior activities, and for community garden to be able to build more planting areas for more participation.
Okay, anybody have a question? Thank you. That brings us down to item 6. Steve, you ready? Room is yours, sir. We need to lower any lights or anything?
No.
Okay,
You can see better.
okay.
Well, good evening. I've been asking for a while to get to address you on the Disabilities Act, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight about the law, some of the issues I see in town, some issues I see in society. Some of the issues I see with technology sometimes. I'm not sure why that is. It was working. See what goes from there. Let me first say I'm not an attorney. We have an attorney in the room here. So the law is just more of a general explanation, not legal advice, okay? If you really need the details of the law, man went to law school right here, I can help you with that. I also want to thank Office of Disability Rights in Washington, D.C. for some of the content and wording of the slides. So first, the law is kind of what is a disability in terms of what we consider it, in terms of what would be protected in the civil rights law. So either a physical or mental impairment that potentially limits a major life activity, or MLA, of an individual, or a record of such impairment, or being regarded as having an impairment. Not everybody has a physical disability, there are emotional disabilities, there are mental, psychological disabilities as well. It's working so far, so I'll keep going. Basically, in the 1960s, civil rights protests and laws got passed and voted by 1964. Building on that, in the 70s, people said, well, we're not discriminating against people because of ethnicity and race and gender and whatnot. Why not disability status too? So in 1973, the Rehabilitation Act was passed. There, in section 504, that they said you can't discriminate against people with disabilities. Standards came out. So there was a movie, Crip Camp, that explains some literally protests that people did in the 70s to make sure that people got protection if they had disabilities. The ADA makes disabilities added on that. Because the section 504 only applied if you got federal money. So the federal buildings, federal facilities. The ADA said, no, this needs to be society-wide for everybody, whether you get federal money or not. It includes personal, private buildings that are open to the public. There were 1991 standards and 2010 standards. So sometimes some things that are built were built to the standards at the time, and there's not a mandate to upgrade them necessarily. But if you did build it the correct way the first time, and you revise it, unless it's a historical building, there's a lot of footnotes, a lot of things where you are exempt on certain buildings, or facilities, or programs. We'll get that basically. But there are standards that you can build up to that. The most recent standard here, the most recent guidelines is called PROAC, the Public Right-of-Way Accessibility Guidelines. Just came out last year. So all these are buildings to make sure we have the right standards. So doorknobs are the right size so it'll be easier. Lighting is correct. You have sign language interpreters. You have hearing assisted listening devices, whatever it may be. 5 titles in the law. Title 1 is about employment. Basically says no employer should discriminate against any qualified person that has a disability in regard to any aspect of employment. So they have to have a disability, they have to be qualified to do the job. So Title I talks about what personnel needs to do, human resources needs to do to make sure that they're not discriminated against. Requires a business to give reasonable accommodation. So if a change or adjustment to the job or work environment, the way things are done, that permits a qualified person, it's not taking something unqualified and putting them into a place, is that you're qualified to do primary work, making sure they can do the essential functions. So it's a simple modification, not a change of the job. They can still do the job requirements, but it has to be modified so they can actually do it successfully. The ADA also covers issues of confidentiality. So if you, as an individual, as an employer, as an employee, had a disability, you disclose that, that wouldn't be necessarily in your normal file, that would be a separate file in your personnel records. The Family Medical Leave Act also impacts with the ADA. So if you have a disability yourself, you need to leave, you have some section under the ADA and some underneath the FMLA. There are certain things you can do pre-employment in terms of questionings, and some things you can't ask. You ask this question, you focus on, can the person do the job? Are they qualified to do the essential aspects of that job? Okay? Once you operate an offer, you can then ask more about what accommodations might you need to do that job. It might be a standing desk, it might be a sign language interpreter, it might be braille accommodations, it might be a large screen. And these things aren't necessarily static because the person, as they age, as things happen to them in life, they may acquire a disability or may get worse or something. So when they're young and whatnot, they may not have a disability as severe, but as they age, they may need more accommodations, and that can be requested and made for. Again, it has to be reasonable. And then you can also ask questions as an employer about what that person needs. Title II of the 5 titles covers state and local governments, especially like Farmville. But again, so no qualified individual, if qualified, shall be a reasonable disability be included from participating in any or benefit, denied the benefits any services, programs, or activities by a public entity. So basically, anything the town does that offers to the public, people with disabilities have the right to the same access to it. Reasonable modifications. Person with a disability can ask for, and we are, as an entity, responsible for providing reasonable modifications. Okay? So reasonably modifying policy, practice, or procedure when necessary. So example, if the elevator wasn't working, and a person that could not, had the ability to could not go upstairs, a reasonable modification would be simply having this meeting somewhere else. We wouldn't have to necessarily carry them upstairs or something like this. Things can be modified in terms of places. So maybe a building itself is not physically accessible to somebody with a disability, so that meeting or that program, whatever, could be moved somewhere else. These are all decided on an individual basis based on what is needed for that individual at that, for that service. So just because 2 people have the same label of a disability does not mean they need necessarily the same services. One person with hearing impairment or deafness may need a sign language interpreter, and the one might just need hearing aids and an assistive listening device, for example. Title II, again, talks about existing buildings. Buildings that are already existing as of 1990. Okay? Physical access does not have to be required at every single entrance or every single place. You have to look at the building as an entirety, to make sure that the building is accessible. So, for example, if a program was happening here, a doorway would have to be accessible to the building. You don't have to make every single doorway accessible, as long as people can get in and out of that program. But if that program was located in multiple places in the building, that would then have to change. Maybe also anything like that. Okay, but then alterations after January 26th of 1992 has to now follow standards. Okay, unless again there's a card about it, it's a historical building, you can't, if it modifies that historical nature of it, you don't have to necessarily do it. New buildings, this is from 1990 onward, must be fully accessible according to ADA standard accessible design, unless it's impractical for structural reasons. Lawyers always, or government officials always be careful things for sessions to make sure a law is flexible enough to apply various situations. Title II, Part B, covers transportation. This includes public transportation, paratransit, if the buses and bus services aren't accessible. You have paratransit that may go door to door or other service. Make sure you too have access to a transportation service type of thing. It's also included about sidewalks that are upkeep now. Let's talk about existing sidewalks like existing buildings. And it talks about building new ones. This does not mandate, this law does not mandate if you make a new road, you have to have a new sidewalk. That could be Main Street policy, that could be the state policy, which it is. It's not under this law. But if you did make a new sidewalk, you have to make sure it's accessible. If you modify that sidewalk or modify the road or alter the road in any way, repaving, fixing, widening, whatever, then everything, the adjacent existing sidewalks have to be made accessible. That does not include just filling potholes. Simple maintenance, again, does not trigger the law or whatever. Parking, you have to have a certain number of spaces available for parking. There's a whole ratio about what needs to be van accessible. At least one space in any facility that you offer parking has to be accessible. Even if it's an unpaved lot, there still needs to be a concrete place put there for people with disabilities to get in and out of a van or some kind of car. The number of spaces you have in that unpaved or paved lot then kicks in how many spaces need to be made and identified to be accessible. Okay, this is just another reference talking about if you modify or alter the road, it then kicks into the law. It doesn't have to be a new road. But if you make a new sidewalk, something new, or you modify it, then it has to be made sure it's accessible. So here comes some of the town issues that I think that could be improved upon. And I'm happy to work with the resources around the state. There's an office nearby, statewide, around whatever. Something that doesn't even require any money. The law required by July of '92 to appoint an ADA coordinator for compliance. That there should be somebody in the job, that's their job duty, and they're trained to make sure the town is compliant in both human resources and employment, as well as facilities and what have you. Any local government agency that had 50 or more employees of any type, like Farmville, needed to complete an inventory of all places and programs about any barriers that may exist to people with a variety of disabilities. And then develop a formal transition plan and set time limit for completion. Also establish and publish a grievance procedure. If somebody had a complaint about something that was accessible, whatever, there should be a policy or procedure how you follow that, like the road naming, etc. But so people know what to do. They're also required to inform and remind people how to make reasonable accommodation requests. So you may see in some places if you need a reasonable accommodation for a movie, for captioning or something like an interpreter or preferred seating, here's a number, here's the person you call, email, what have you. If you needed that at a meeting like this, within a reasonable amount of time, this is what you would do before the meeting to make sure that it's accessible to you. So some of my observations around town. Again, these are just personal observations of concerns. A lot of our sidewalks are in very rough shape. Now that I have a mobility disability of my own after getting hit, several of you that have tried moving me around in my wheelchair have seen how difficult it is for someone to push me around. It's nearly impossible for me to get around many places. But this isn't necessarily about me. It's about people with all different kinds of disabilities and these issues that are required and mandated by law to be addressed, but benefit everybody else too. People pushing shopping carts, strollers, people moving heavy equipment, all benefit from the programs. Now you'll see that a lot of them are done on the state roads in town. State still has some more to do, and that's because they too neglected on some issues where they repaved the road or fixed it, that they did not make those existing sidewalks accessible with the programs. I counted more than 100, and I know the town has put some money aside in the budget, and I appreciate that. I don't know if there's 110, 190. I'm not sure if anyone really has a good idea of that number. That's where that inventory would really assist and help to get a handle on what this is. And if the town has the money to put aside as a plan, roughly 5 to 10 sidewalk ramps per year, we're looking at 10, 15, 20 years in the future just to be accessible what we should have been doing 30 years ago. New construction. And this may be contractors that are building some sidewalks and putting things on there. There's brand new sidewalks that are being made and they're not being made to accessible standards. Some construction on Church Street right now destroys access to the sidewalks. There's no cautionary barriers, there's nothing there. That's even warning somebody that has low vision or something issues going to the community center for the soup kitchen or going for the light or something, that this is no longer accessible to them. So then what do? Sometimes some sidewalks in town Bonnie's Alley, for example, they're blocked with things. Some of the sidewalks in town, the cross slopes, the angle are so slip. You know, I don't know how many walk by the Plank Road, for example, it's right outside. That's a really steep cross slope. Person using a mobility device, that's rather risky and dangerous for them. The handicap parking mandates and standards need to be looked at and I think followed. There's some doorway widths that need to be inspected. I know that the state requires that when you're building inspections for new buildings or renovations or so, that's something that code enforcers would be doing. I don't see, like, if somebody needed a sign language interpreter, I know there's several deaf people in town, and I really appreciate the library, the friends of the library, stepping up and putting up some of the friends' money to pay for sign language interpreters, so one of our deaf citizens can participate in a local. But there's no standard policy about how somebody actually goes to request that. If a deaf person were to get arrested and they need access to communication, how would they get an interpreter? How would the police know? I mean, so we need a person, we need a way to make sure that we can have those resources so that people that are our fellow citizens or ourselves can have access that is fair and equal. This includes web pages and information technology, making sure things are captioned whenever possible. Now with AI, it's a lot easier than it used to be. The railroad crossings at South Main Street, I read online that there are 3-4 people that live on South Main that use mobility devices that cannot get to the community center to vote independently because that railroad crossing sidewalk stopped. They have to depend on somebody and ask around for somebody to give them a ride to go vote when they'd rather just be able to wheel themselves. And if you can't cross at least one place, I really feel that cuts people off between people on the north side going to the south side going to the north side, because we are one Farmville. We want it to be integrated. And I think having those barriers by NCDOT and the railroad, I think we should advocate together to make sure that all that gets approved so that we can connect with easy access and be safe. Policy about service animals. Several things. I just think there's observations, but a lot of things, but I have some resources to share. Not every disability is visible. These things should have been done. There's a lot of programs out there, a lot of resources I can help share with you. But I'd like to think the town would at least make some momentum to more systematically addressing some of these things, if possible. And there's one. Those are only the first 2 titles. I'm not going to bore you with some of the rest. Basically, Title 3, public accommodations, even if you have a private building, if it's open to the public, still needs to be accessible. Okay? Same thing if it's an old building, if it was before 1990 or after 91 or 92, same kind of general rules. Telecommunications devices. This is where if a deaf person needs to use a telephone, there are video phones that we all pay for on our phone bills. There's a couple pennies we all pay for every call that pays for these services. Miscellaneous provisions in there, Title 5 is basically you can't discriminate against some person if they were to have a complaint against something. You can't retaliate because of that disability because they complained, and provisions like that. And if somebody were to actually hire an attorney and the prevailing attorney, that their fees can be reimbursed by the party actors. And that's, in a nutshell, the ADA. And I'd like to say just that there's a lot we can do together with information and resources that already exist to address this that can be more equitable and more accessible to our fellow citizens. Thank you. I'll entertain any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Any questions? Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That brings us down to consideration of appointing the commissioner for the first alternate commission to represent the town of Farmville of the North Carolina Eastern Municipal Power Agency Board and Commission. Dave, you got this?
Yes, sir. So currently, this is the local, well, not local, it's the Eastern Municipal Power Agency. This is the Eastern North Carolina portion of electric cities. They have probably about 8 meetings a year. I've been the commissioner for Farmville. Brian Shackelford has been the alternate, or second alternate, I guess. I don't know. We don't have a first alternate for some reason. Never have, as far as I know. So, obviously, I'm leaving you and won't be eligible. Well, I guess I could. You could appoint it, but I want to be appointed or continue to be serving that role. So, in here, I recommended that Justin Oates be commissioner and that Brian Shackelford be appointed as the first alternate.
Justin, are you willing to take this position? Okay, is Brian here?
He's not, he's not the.
What he'll get for not being in the meeting.
He already goes to some of the meetings.
Okay, is there a motion, Justin has agreed to accept, is there a motion that, we appoint Justin to this position?
Make a motion that we appoint Justin to this position.
Okay. Commissioner Evans has made the motion, board, you've heard it, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Justin, thank you for your willingness to serve. David, I'll continue with you, consideration of personnel.
You need to.
Shackle, oh yeah.
You have to need to write that.
And, is there a motion that for Brian to be this, alternate?
Make a motion that Brian Shackle be the alternate.
Commissioner Evans has made the motion, you've heard the motion, board, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you for that, David. Thank you, Commissioner Evans. Consideration personnel amendment, David, you got it.
Yes, sir. Okay, so we have a couple of amendments for you tonight for your consideration. This is sort of cleaning up some things that Cindy had mentioned, we talked about, that has been unclear in the policy. The first one being cleaning up some language related to temporary assignments or interim assignments. Right now, it's somewhat unclear. We've done different things, but occasionally a person leaves, a new employee or an employee is appointed to fill as an interim role until the permanent position is filled. This clarifies that the person has to be in the interim role for at least 30 days, and then at such time, the person would be granted a 5% salary increase in the interim role or to the minimum rate of the new job grade, whichever is greater. So that's what this does. It used to be 10%. Now adjust down to 5%, and then it also addresses the grade issue. So.
Anybody got questions today on this or comments while we're here? Anybody? Questions on or motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept this, what it is, amendment,
It's an amendment to the personnel policy.
correction to the amendment.
Board, you've heard the motion from Commissioner Smith. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. That brings us down to item number 9. David, you have got this personnel policy amendment, career development.
Right. This was mentioned during the policy update several years back, but we never really, it was sort of left up to the town manager in consultation with the HR director, I believe is how the phrase. We don't really like that language very much. We'd rather you set the policy, so we're recommending that the policy be clarified by saying that if an employee gets some sort of certificate or licensure or something that enhances their job capabilities or whatever, it's not just going out getting, taking a class or getting something like that doesn't relate to the job. If they actually get something that does provide them certification or degree or whatever that helps them in their position, that they would be granted a 2% salary increase as an incentive to reward those employees. So as I said, in the policy, this is already in here. It just says now that if you see what's marked through the town manager, assisted by a human resources officer shall establish a schedule, we'd rather you set this at 2% and then it'd be an automatic thing for getting the extra certifications and incentives.
Any questions on this?
That seems like, I guess there's an opportunity for the town manager to approve the class that they're registering for, but I mean, what's the bar, I guess, to receive that 2%? Is there anything other than the manager's opinion, or, I mean, like, every certification is not equal.
Right. In other jurisdictions I've worked in, for instance, building inspections, if someone was a level 1 inspector and they went to a level 2, they got an adjustment, or level 3. It's something that was specifically, that benefited the town, that individual, whatever, but not that if you just attend this course and you get a certificate, if that's what you're asking.
That's what I'm asking.
Sort of a licensure or a specific, I don't know how to describe it. It would have to be directly related to their job, or, you know, they go get a degree, you know, they go back to college and get a degree that's specific to their job, or enhances their job capability. They would be eligible for that.
You would, the town manager would have the opportunity to say, maybe this course by itself isn't,
It would be just taking a single course.
maybe these 3 or 4 together.
Right.
So there is still some ability to make sure that
There would have to be some discretion by the manager as to, and we already approve, like if somebody wants to take a college course or whatever, we don't automatically approve any sort of tuition reimbursement until they get approval in advance and they make a certain grade and all that, but that won't necessarily get you this incentive. It would just get you some assistance in the course tuition or whatever.
Who would authorize it and validate it?
Who?
What person would authorize that the career development certificate has been validated?
Well, we would have to get evidence of the achieve,
Yeah.
but HR probably would actually
So you
receive
need
that.
to put a person in there to verify.
Well, it would have to, the action of the personal action form would come out of HR, signed by the manager. So that would be your,
So the manager will authorize it.
the 2%. But HR would receive the information and share, I guess, and make a recommendation to the town manager for all of it. Just like any adjustment of salary or whatever.
I guess I'm trying to find someone to hold accountable to make sure this is valid. Who is that person?
It's always been the manager where I've worked, when we had this program, so.
Good. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Very well, I'll make a motion to accept the motion.
Before you've heard the motion from Commissioner Smith, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. That brings us to item number 10. David, you've got this. I think you and I have discussed some dates pending the board's decision.
So I'm going to bore you with, one more time, with my transmittal letter. And let me just pass out the letter. So, just let me get some visual.
You gonna do that before we decide on the date that we're gonna hear all this again?
If you want to talk about the date, that's fine.
Board, what I've asked of David for your consideration tonight, all he does is that we have the budget meeting, which will be open to the public during that time on Monday, May 19th at 2 p.m. I spoke with Cindy, and this seems to be a good time for her, and town employees, department heads would be able to be there. That's Monday, May 19th at 2 p.m. And we can consider that.
There would need to be a vote and also setting the public hearing on the budget.
Let me get the date first, then I'm coming back to you. Okay, is that good with y'all?
I will be unavailable on that day.
What day can you go? You got a lot on. What day would it work for you?
I can do the Monday before and the Monday after.
We can't do the 13th, the 12th. Because let me take that, let me back up. We will be tied up on the 13th as a board. And we're asking to tie the board up for 2 days. Now, if that's what y'all want to do, we'll do it. If you want to shut down for 2 days, because we've got the 13th, which will be, it's already on the calendar.
Right.
So,
Do you
but
have,
it's the board's decision, you decide.
do you have to do it on Monday? Is there another day of the week that?
Well, I don't want to waste a week, is what it says. I said this morning in your office, I don't want to do this in the middle of the week and then have going into Friday when we've got half a day, and we've lost a half a week if we got to be jumping through some boots to do some things. So Monday works better because that gives us the whole week to make some adjustments there. Commissioner Smith, the following Monday, let me get this, is Memorial Day. Okay, so I think we're kind of limited to what we can do here because we've got to have this, well, in a box.
I mean, the 20th is the Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm out of town all that week.
Okay, you're gone the 20th. Okay, hold on a second here. Let's see what we can do.
I can do any other time y'all want to, and I don't have to be there.
Oh, yes, you do. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that whole week of the 19th, you're out, right?
To the 23rd.
Okay. Let me ask the board this. On the 29th of May at 2 o'clock. 29th of May at 2 o'clock. Will that work?
Okay, that's really late.
That's real late.
And if you have to have another session, you would get really, that's even too close to your regular meeting the following Monday.
You can't go anytime during the week of the 20th, Bert.
No, sir.
Hold on a second.
Well,
I'm trying to find some dates here.
the week before, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,
No,
no?
no, not on, that's, I wish I'd known that. Okay, we can't go to 14, 13, we're here all day. Time out.
21st.
Hold on a second, time out. I think we can go on the 12th. Can you go on the 12th? I think we can go on the 12th board if we can take our, meeting on the 13th. You Cindy, if we could take our meeting on the 13th and move that to the 12th. If we could if we could move everything on the 13th and move it to Tuesday morning. Say again? On the 12th. Okay, so we're back on the 13th now. Okay, and Bert, can you go on the 13th?
I think I can go.
Okay, all right, so on the 13th, if we were to move the Thursday, if we were to move the Tuesday meeting, the 13th, if we were to move that in the morning and plan here being all day on the 13th and then have the budget meeting at 2, would the 13th work for y'all on the 13th at 2 for the budget meeting at the library? Because our 12th meeting will be here in the town hall, in the conference room, in closed session. Okay?
Okay, Amy said that she has court school that week as well.
You got what?
Court school, she's been in 2 weeks, so it's a 2-week thing. I guess it's the second week, right? Is that right? So,
What are y'all doing Sunday afternoon? So Bert, you can't do anything the week of the 20th.
I can do the Sunday afternoon days.
That might be where we end up.
Is the 15th, I mean, I know it's a Thursday, but the 14th, I mean, is there any? I'm just trying to think if we can make something that.
Okay. I don't have to tell people meetings I go to. Okay? But I'll have to bail out of there because I've got, a meeting at 6. Will we be out of there by 5, you think?
Which day?
On the 15th.
I hope so.
Yeah. It depends on when you start.
I've got
What about the 14th? Is that out?
what day is that day?
It's a Wednesday.
What do you think? No. Not on Wednesday, sir.
So we try the 15th at 1 o'clock?
15
Can you do it at 2? David, Commissioner Shaggy and I have a meeting at 1 o'clock that day.
Okay.
That we've got a 1 o'clock that day, and we could excuse ourselves at 1:45 and be here too. Or be at the library, we could be at the library 15 minutes late. You know? And if most of us are not there, then they won't have a quorum for the meeting. So, all right, so let's look at the 15th. How do you feel about the 15th at 2 o'clock? And silence falls on the books. All right, Dr. Hobbs is good. 2. David and I can do it.
3, 4.
All right. Somebody make a motion before somebody changes their
I
mind.
make a motion we accept 2 o'clock on Thursday, May 15th for the budget workshop.
Okay, you've heard the motion and everything that went with it. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. So, spread the word, newspaper, Donna, we will have our budget meeting on the 15th at 2 o'clock at the library. Now, David, walk us through this thing.
Okay, the other vote would need to be on the setting the public hearing for June 2nd on the budget, so.
Okay, that will be an agenda. That will be our regular meeting too, right?
That's right.
Okay. Very good. And in that June meeting, there'll also be a request to meet, I'm assuming, David, on the 30th for the July meeting, or will we go on the 23rd? Help me remember that.
23rd.
23rd.
You've already said that, though.
Okay, that's it. So we're good to go. I think it'd be important that we get the word out there of where we are. Okay? What else you got, Boss?
Well, you need to make a motion to set the public hearing for the June 2nd meeting. I believe they normally do a motion. You need to vote on that.
All right, so here's the way this thing works. We're gonna meet on the 15th at 2 o'clock, okay? And then we need a motion to have the public hearing here at our regular board meeting on June the 2nd. Is that right, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Okay?
I move that we have the public meeting on June the 2nd.
You've heard the motion from Dr. Hobbs. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. What else you got, Dave?
Just wanted to make a few comments about the budget.
Okay.
Okay, so it's the last time you have to hear from me, so you'll, if you hear me one last time. Okay, so this budget is presented for you. The document includes department head request and our recommendation for your consideration. As you begin your review and consideration, please note that every effort has been made to implement all policies as directed by the Board of Commissioners without adding undue financial burden to the citizens and taxpayers of the town of Farmville. The last four annual budgets address several areas where needs were deferred due to uncertainties related to COVID-19 pandemic. However, this year's recommended budget takes a markedly conservative stance on new expenditures of any vacant cost, primarily due to what we were able to do in recent years in areas of capital projects and other capital outlays. The most significant funding challenges, as I've said every year I've been here, continue to occur in the general fund. The primary revenue sources are particularly constrained and the prospect for significant revenue growth unlikely in the near term. I will note that even though we had a revaluation last year, we did get some money. I would question the values that we're getting from the county, but we can't do anything about it because they didn't come in very well this year. I don't have a lot of confidence in that, but we have to take their values by statute. The enterprise funds, or financial condition of the enterprise funds, water, sewer, electric is relatively strong, but we must pay particular attention to maintaining healthy reserve in all these funds to maintain fiscal health and weather any unforeseen expenses that may come to the forefront. The town has been especially successful in recent years in leveraging available grant funds and lower interest loans for essential needs resources, including North Carolina Department of Commerce, North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, the Gulf League Foundation, and 11 cities in North Carolina. We need to continue these efforts to meet the needs of our residents and businesses without overburdening the individual corporate taxpayer or the utility ratepayer. Some of the highlights of this budget are an ad valorem tax rate of 49 cents per $100 of assessed value is recommended for general intent purposes. This rate Retail water rates are proposed to increase by 3.5% to maintain a sustainable rate structure to meet capital project needs to help offset the planned 3.2% bulk water rate increase from Greenville Utilities Commission effective July 1st and to address the continued high cost of supplies and materials. Retail sewer rates are proposed to increase by 3.3% to maintain a sustainable rate structure to meet capital needs to help offset the planned 3.2% increase in charges for Veolia North America at the town's wastewater treatment plant and to address the continued high cost of supplies and materials. Retail electric rates are proposed to increase by 3.5% to maintain a sustainable rate structure to meet capital needs to help offset a 3.5% wholesale rate increase from the North Carolina Eastern Municipal Power Agency and to address the continued high cost of supplies and materials. Solid waste collection fees are proposed to increase by 2.4% to reflect the consumer price index adjustment to be imposed by DFL Environmental effective with the July billing per its contract with the town. This fee increase will not result in any additional revenue for the town. No changes in general fees and charges are recommended. No appropriation of unrestricted or undesignated fund balances proposed in general fund, water fund, sewer fund, or electric fund in fiscal year 25-26. Restricted fund balance in the amount of $156,500 is recommended for appropriation from Farmville reserves to help finance street resurfacing, sidewalk construction, stormwater improvements, and repair existing sidewalks. The town has a very healthy Farmville fund balance. The town has needs that exceed the annual allocation from the reserves revenue source. We included funds for continuation of the town's longevity pay plan that recognize full-time employees with significant tenure in the town. All compensation under this plan will come in the form of an annual bonus payment that will not affect the recipient employee's base compensation. Funds for continuation of the town's merit pay for performance programs have been included for full-time regular status town employees who have performed at an exceptional level. Under the proposal, merit pay will be awarded depending on the results of individual employees' annual performance evaluation. Implementation is scheduled for around April 1st, 2026. A 3% market adjustment is recommended for all regular status, full-time, and part-time town staff positions effective July 1 to keep the town in position to recruit quality employees in a competitive job market. Inflation continues to impact our employees. It's essential that the town assist our employees in addressing these added costs. Funding is recommended for a few important capital purchases projects in fiscal year 25-26. Proposed capital outlay items and projects to be funded with street resurfacing, construction of some sidewalk segments, sidewalk repairs, miscellaneous utility system upgrades, a new leaf truck, new computer equipment, improvements at the town hall and community center, and improvements at town parks and playgrounds. Town addressed many of the backlog items in our capital project list in prior years, so the recommendation is to scale back on capital spending in the coming year. No new full-time staff positions are recommended in FY 25-26. Total all funds as recommended is $21,880,832, which is 3.3% more than the adopted budget for 24-25, which is a very small increase given the budget that size. I won't go through all these, talk about some of the issues that are facing the town, things like aging water and sanitary sewer infrastructure. We're doing a good job of addressing those, but there's still some backlog there. That's primarily grant funded. Aging stormwater infrastructure and drainage concerns is a regular headache. We don't have existing funding sources and grants sources for that, so it's a challenge to address those. We have ongoing maintenance of town buildings, grounds, and streets. We do as much as we can given what we have, but that's going to continue to be an issue. And then utility rates, I've addressed those, I mentioned those, but even though it seems like we're going up on everything we are or proposed to go up, it's actually fairly stable rate structure over the years, and we're just trying to make sure we meet our costs. Future capital construction projects. We've got several parks and recreation park improvements that would be looked at as part of the comprehensive parks and recreation plan that we're going through this process now. New fire department headquarters, of course, we're working towards getting that built. Economic development, marketing, branding, we're still enhancing that project, and it's been very successful. If you haven't been recently, check out visit farmvillenc.com, which is our visitors website. It's got a lot of good information, and there's stuff added almost weekly on that site. Of course, economic development in general is a big thing. We need to continue to grow jobs, grow business in town. So we're doing everything we can to incentivize enhancement of downtown and other areas of town. The fiscal year 25-26 proposed annual budget is presented for your review. This is assuredly the most important decision the Board of Commissioners makes all year. The annual budget predetermines the course of town operations for the coming year by setting funding and program priorities. Please take this document and read it carefully. If you have questions about anything in this document, please contact me or Finance Director Amy Johnson. Proposing the board set a public hearing June 2nd. You've already done that. To receive public comment on the proposed budget and have one more budget work sessions in May to permit a more detailed explanation of the document before adopting the budget ordinance for fiscal year 25-26. Of course, you're free to alter or amend this document any way you choose. I look forward to having the opportunity to discuss the budget with you prior to adoption. I would like to thank the town's department heads for their assistance and cooperation by working with me to keep costs down and make reasonable budget requests and reduce the comprehensive plan of action for FY 25-26. Also wish to thank the Mayor and Board of Commissioners for providing me with input prior to the beginning of the budget formulation process. Finally, I would like to thank Amy Johnson and Justin Oaks for all their efforts and assistance during the budgeting process, and Cindy Thomas for assembling the budget books. As this is my last budget for the town of Farmville, I would like to personally thank the elected officials and staff for all your support during my tenure with the town of Farmville. And it has been a distinct pleasure working with all of you.
David, thank you for this, and we look forward to picking it and going through it on the 15th at 2, and we will have we'll follow, I guess if it's okay with the board, we'll follow the same form we use in the past for being efficient and that hit hot spots. Anybody got any questions of David at this point on anything? Anybody?
I do.
Any question?
David, I just want to thank you for just for all you've done for the town of Walton. I do want to give you a heads up though of something that I've asked before, and I know we've had some discussions about this, but the budget workshop, I would really like a good explanation in terms of actual dollars. That we all know that everybody probably in this room and most of all of our citizens experienced a property valuation by the county last year of anywhere from 20% to 80% increase. And we chose as a board to keep our ad valorem tax rate the same. So I'm having a hard time understanding the comment of we didn't see a substantial increase in our ad valorem taxes.
We did, we just didn't see it continue as far as further growth in our tax base. The growth was based on the revaluation as opposed to more natural growth, is actually what I was getting.
What I'd like to do, if you can have for us at our budget workshop, because I'd like to know what that relates to in dollars and cents in a way. If our tax base was valued at the previous valuation, and I'm just going out round numbers. If it's 10 million and it went up to 15 million, I don't know what that increase was in dollars and cents, and what that increase was in terms of actual dollars to the town of Farmville in increased tax revenue. And then I'd also like, because then what those numbers are in terms of actual dollars.
In the revenue lines, you can, and we'll point this out in the budget section, but You can go in the budget of the revenue, general fund revenue, and you can see from year to year what the actual tax revenue was, for prior years and then what we're projecting for this year. But it will, I'll have all that information for you, but it's in there. You just have to maybe look for it, but I'll point it out very clearly. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Anybody else? Anybody? Okay, that brings us down to citizen comment. Let me be very clear. Citizen comment is about anything you've heard here tonight. Any question, and there's been a lot of information here tonight. Any question about anything that has transpired here tonight? Anybody? Seeing anybody? Seeing none, board, or any closing comments before I call for adjournment? Anybody?
I would like to echo Commissioner Evans's comments on the service and commitment that town manager Hodgkins has done for the town. He's been here 13 years, and we've seen a lot of good things happen in those 13 years, and I just want to compliment him on his job.
Okay.
I would too. Of your 13 years, I've had the opportunity to work almost 8 years with you, and it has definitely been a pleasure, and I appreciate all you've done to make Farmville a better place to live.
Thank you.
Anybody?
I'll just say, add my thanks, David, I haven't been here for 8 years, but nearly 2 that I have been. I appreciate your guidance and insight, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson?
Very pleased with what we've been able to do, what we're still doing.
Okay. Okay, sir?
Just one more thing, like I said, I thank David, I want to thank, the town staff and all the volunteers for, as Mayor Moore said in the beginning, an incredible dog festival, as always, 36 years. Hard to believe it's been 36 years, but just all that you do, all the extra time and effort and the way you have the town looking, it's just an event to be very proud of, and I know it takes an incredible amount of time and effort, and thank you all.
Commissioner Shackford and I were on the board at the time that David came and interviewed and said he could come help us at Farmville. And most of you know, most of the managers, they don't stay very long. But we're very fortunate to have them as long as we have. And you have helped us get through some interesting things. And being in a town commissioner, or being on a board like this, like a baseball game. There are 9 innings in a baseball game. Sometimes you have a bad inning, sometimes you have a good inning. David's been there in all the innings, and we will miss you as we move forward. With that being said, is there a motion to adjourn? There's a motion to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.